Hello, my name is Jeanie LoVetri, and this is the Jeanie LoVetri Show, our vocal universe. We're very happy to have you here. This is a show that's all about the voice in all its myriad aspects. We're going to learn about voice in every way. We're going to talk to very interesting people whose lives are about voice. So that includes singers and actors and announcers, speakers, clergy people, and people who are working with singing and speaking. But we will also have medical doctors who deal with the throat, and voice researchers and speech-language pathologists, all sorts of interesting people from the world of voice who make their living dealing with that sound that comes out of our mouth. Today we have a wonderful guest who is both a singer and singing teacher, but also is a choral conductor. And we've known each other for many years, and I'm very, very delighted to have him here as our guest. His name is Jack Eppler. Welcome, Jack.
Hi, Jeanie. Thank you for having me here. It's great.
Glad you could be here. I would like to ask you to tell us a little bit about how it was that you got involved with voice and what led you into using your voice as the main part of your life as you are doing now.
Well, we go back a long way, don't we? We met in the vocal studio.
Yeah.
And have sung a lot together.
We have.
Which has been great. Well, I always sang. I sang from the time I was a very small child. I grew up in a singing culture, and I think that's something that's really lacking in today's world. There are not a lot of opportunities for the public to sing,
right,
the way it was when I grew up. I was in a church, so there was congregational singing. Everybody sang in 4 parts. They had hymnals, and they sang out of the hymnal in 4 parts. And then there was a public school teacher who came in twice a week and taught us folk songs in 2-part harmony. It was just really wonderful. We were encouraged to sing, and we weren't afraid of it. I think today there are a lot of people who don't sing because there are just no opportunities. Either they don't go to a religious service, or they might sing at a ball game, but that's about it. And they don't have it in school. So I feel very fortunate, really, that I was raised in that environment.
Yes. And so did you go on in school to study further?
I went to a little religious school in Oklahoma, and someplace in the middle of my studies I switched to a singing major. I wasn't really prepared for it. I didn't have much technical training, but I loved to sing, and I switched it to a music major in the middle of that. And then I graduated and moved to New York City because someplace along the line I fell in love with the operatic voice, and so I thought I've got to be where they're making opera, so that's when I moved to New York City.
So you came here.
Right.
You weren't doing that in Oklahoma, huh?
Well, there were some good voices there for sure, but and one of the things actually that inspired me tremendously, I remember a little singing group came through my high school, and there was a young fellow there a short little guy, a white guy, who sang Old Man River with his group. And I'd never heard a classically trained voice singing live, and it just blew me away. It was thrilling. So that's kind of what inspired me to try singing myself.
Mm-hmm. And so you came to New York, and what did you do after you got here?
Well, you know, back in those days, the first thing that you would do in New York City, if you wanted to have a career, and I did come with the idea of having a career, although I didn't know how I was going to do it, but the first thing you do is get a job in a church and a synagogue, and that's what I did. And back then, they didn't care, and still, I guess, they don't care what religion you are, just if you can sing in the church or the temple. That's what we did, and I met a lot of other colleagues there. I found a great voice teacher in that venue, and it started that way. And then I auditioned for little jobs. I got a job at the Bel Canto Opera Company, if you remember that little tiny company. A lot of great singers came out of that company, actually. Claudia Catania and some other people that went on to the Met. And I had a tremendous time. My first opera there was Prokofiev's The Duenna. Who does that? and then formed a little opera company with some friends out in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and we did original music. That's always great to do original composers' music.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my start.
Yeah. I remember coming out to see you in Bay Ridge in the Coffee Cantata
Yeah.
and Old Maid and the Thief.
And the Old Maid and the Thief, the Telephone, the two Menotti operas,
Yeah, I
Samuel
remember that.
Barber's Hand of Bridge.
That was like 4 years ago, but I remember.
Yeah.
So now you teach singing, and so where do you do that?
Primarily, I teach at New York University at the Tisch School of the Arts, and I teach in several programs there, but the most recent one is their musical theater training program. It's called New Studio on Broadway. I have amazingly wonderful colleagues there and wonderful students who it's a very competitive program, so they come from all over the country. They've been highly trained usually before they get to us, but I have a wonderful time there, and I teach kids who are primarily actors, not singers. I love that because they're just so interesting.
Yeah.
And they're very eclectic. I can teach them anything from cowboy songs to Elizabethan songs to early Broadway. They're very, very open.
Yeah,
and
very willing to learn, right?
Very, very willing.
And then your private practice? What's that?
Well, I have my own studio in the West Village, just off Washington Square, actually. And I have taught for a long time. I teach everything from beginners to professionals and pretty much every kind of venue. I've taught everything from salsa singers. I love that because I love salsa singing. To country and western, to jazz, to classical. So I love the voice. I love it when people engage with their own sound, and I love it when they're excited and enthused about their music. So even if it's music I don't know anything about or don't particularly care about, to help a singer explore the music they love is a very thrilling thing to me.
Yeah, I understand that. I share those feelings. Now, you also are a choral conductor. So how is it that that came about? Because most choral conductors are pianists or instrumental musicians, not so much singers. So how is it that you ended up as a choral conductor?
Right. Well, my background didn't exactly lead me to do that. I was trained a little bit in college how to direct a choir because I was a music education major, not a performance major. But when I came to New York City, one of the things I noticed was what I mentioned earlier. A lot of people do not have singing in their lives. Many people have never sung, and I think because since the 50s, I grew up in the television era, people started seeing singers on TV and they kind of assumed that that was a singer, and they're not a singer. And so a lot of people just think that they can't sing. And when I heard people say that, I thought, no, that's terrible. You have to be able to sing. And how can I remedy that? So I came up with the idea of having a non-audition choir. It wasn't meant to be a performance choir at the beginning. It was just a place where people could come and sing through choral music. And so I started this choir at a church in Chelsea. And we've been going now for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing.
Well, I am very happy to be able to share some of that with our viewers. So we do have some interesting, wonderful clips to show you of the New York City Community Chorus at Holy Apostles. That's the name of this group. So Jack, can you tell us what we're going to see in this first clip?
Right. Well, the first clip here is from a concert we did a few winters ago called Mercy. And this is an Irving Berlin medley. It's part of an Irving Berlin medley. Irving Berlin, a great Jewish composer, composed the most famous Christmas songs ever, and this is one of them. And you'll see our choir, which has about 70 people. You'll notice that maybe 1/4 of them are tenors and basses. We're far outnumbered by sopranos and altos. So you hear a lot of melody here from the sopranos. But we sing in 4-part harmony, and this is one of our numbers that we're doing.
Wonderful. So let's take a look at that.
It may slow.
was lovely. So nice to see so many different people, different races, different ages.
Yeah.
It's quite an eclectic group.
They are a fabulous group, and it's one of the things that's happened with this chorus is we've sort of formed a caring community based around the chorus. We have everybody from people in their 20s to people in their 90s. People sort of go through the entire life cycle in our chorus. People get to the place where they really can't handle the music anymore, can't get up so easily, and other people help them, assist them. You'll see people kind of taking someone by the elbow and getting them up, holding their music, showing them where they're at in the music. We go all the way from childhood through senility in our chorus.
And you do also cover a wide range of music, not just simple songs, right? What kinds of things do you sing?
That's, I think, the most interesting thing about our chorus and what makes us fairly unique. There, I'm sure, are other choruses in New York City that are non-audition, and we have no qualification for joining our chorus whatsoever. You cannot carry a tune and still be welcome in our chorus. We have plenty of those, believe me. But we don't scrimp on the kind of music that we do. We do really exciting, interesting music. 4-part harmony, 8-part harmony. We do polyphonic music, Renaissance music. We really try to immerse people in an interesting choral experience to really expose them to the great music of our culture. And so we just kind of ignore the fact that the music is usually too hard for them. And we have a great time doing it. And
yeah, I noticed that really means a lot to you, is that you immerse them in a broad range of musical experiences.
Exactly. And sometimes, at the beginning it can sound pretty appalling when we're trying to put it together. But then there are times when the result is absolutely thrilling. We just finished a concert based on zarzuela, which are Spanish operettas. And they learned a really incredibly beautiful piece with a lot of Spanish. It was pretty horrible up to the last second, but the performance was dead on and gorgeous.
Yeah, it's so nice. And so we are going to go into our next clip, which is of that same concert, correct?
Yes, it is the same concert. It was done several winters ago. Now what you'll see in this clip really is everything that kind of makes our concerts. Our chorus can learn approximately enough music to fill up half of a concert. So we fill up the rest of the concert with invited guest soloists. You'll see one of them, and you'll recognize her, I think, pretty easily. In the first clip, she's singing a Messiah aria. And then in the second clip, you'll see the chorus doing an African American spiritual, and the soloist is one of our loyal tenors who's been with us for quite a long time. His name is Court Cheek, wonderful singer. And then in the third clip, one of the other elements of our concerts is the audience involvement. So you're going to see the entire audience doing a familiar Christmas song. And there's even a little clip of the organ. We happen to rent this beautiful church where we perform, and J. David Williams, who's been our accompanist from the very beginning, is an excellent organist. So we show a little clip of the organ because that's usually a feature.
Yes, that's a beautiful organ, and that church is a very important church. It has the largest soup kitchen in the city, and it was on the Underground Railroad route.
Yep.
So here is our second clip.
has been converted is one, is one. Talk about a child that been converted is one, is one. Ever since I learned the gospel story, I've been walking on the path to glory. Talk about a child that's been converted.
Well, that was really very nice, if I do say so myself. I would say that the component
Nice
of
soprano.
the component of having the audience participate is a very impactful experience,
Yes.
because the whole church rings out with those songs in the holiday concert and all the concerts. And I really find that that's a very fun part of it. Now, can anybody be in this chorus? If you want to be in it, what do you do?
You just show up. That's exactly what you do. We do 2 concerts a year, one in June and one in December. So we have about 15 weeks to prepare for the December concert. We do a very interesting sort of multi-ethnic mix of music. Our first rehearsal is the first Monday after Labor Day, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And so you really just have to show up at the church, which is at the corner of 9th Avenue and 28th Street. Just show up.
Yes, and you can get the information about that on the website, which will be at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Now, we have, I want to ask you, what are you doing now? Both of us have been singing a long time, so what are you doing with your singing now?
Well, I have to tell you, I am very grateful that I am still singing. The voice has gone through a lot of periods of adjustment over my lifetime. I'm close to 70 now, and I'm actually singing, I would say, better than I ever have. And that's partly because, just learned a lot about life. But I have always been mostly interested in classical music. As I say, my first inspiration to sing was hearing opera singers and on record. And one of the very first art songs that I heard on recording was Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau doing Die Schöne Müllerin.
Okay, so let's say to the audience, he was a very, very famous classical singer who was from Germany.
Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau, yes.
And this was an artist who was very famous for singing what we call art songs, which are not big operatic pieces, but simple songs, often to a poem, sometimes just with lyrics that have been written.
Mm-hmm.
And there are very many art songs in Italian, German, French, English, and then all the other languages have some.
Yeah.
And as a trained singer in the United States, you are expected to learn French, German, Italian, and English at a minimum in this song literature. So this person that Jack is speaking about was a very famous artist who I think has been dead about 15 years, right?
Not quite that long, actually. Maybe 5 years, I'm thinking.
Uh-huh.
And his accompanist and this anyway, and this recording that I first heard was Gerald Moore.
Yeah,
They were
also
quite a
very
famous
famous,
team.
right.
And Fischer Dieskau, yes, was the most famous leader singer of his day. And Schubert, the composer of The Beautiful Maid of the Mill, that's the translation, set 20 songs of a German poet named Wilhelm Müller. And these poems tell a story about a young miller apprentice and how he goes wandering in the forest as the brook leads him, sort of his destiny is to be led to the mill, falls in love with a miller maid, there's betrayal and loss, etc. And so I'm telling these songs, or I'm going to sing these songs as a sort of a theatrical piece. There's going to be translation projected behind me, so because the art song recitals was quite something when we were raised as young singers, but there are so many people, especially people that I know, who are not familiar with these things, so I want to make them a little bit more accessible by having the translations be visible while I'm singing.
Right.
They're going to be dramatized just slightly.
Yes.
So I'm working on that piece right now. It's very exciting, and thank God I'm still singing.
Yes, that's the really cool thing. Lieder is the German word for songs, and that's the word Lied is song. So when we speak of Lieder, we're speaking of songs. And this cycle is a very famous one, but as Jack said, many people don't know it, and he wants to eliminate it and make it more accessible so young people particularly can be exposed to these great works. They're very important. So is there anything else we haven't covered you want to talk about before we wind down?
Well, I could talk a little bit about, I said before that I was very grateful that I'm still singing. And I think maybe this is important for singers to think about. When we're young, I think that we're drawn to singing because we hear a great singer and we're thrilled by it and we want to be like that. I relate this to some of my students who are very young. And there's a certain amount of immaturity that most of us have. I'll speak for myself, a certain amount of immaturity I had where it became important for me, for people to like my voice, to like my singing, and I had to kind of get that feedback in order to go ahead. And sometimes it was few and far between at the very beginning. And I have discovered over a lifetime, which has included the loss of my voice, that what really sustains one in the end is having a deep need to say something. And so that's I really credit that for bringing my voice back. The humility, I think, to kind of get to the place where I thought, it's over, I have no more voice. And then to put myself back in the care of a young voice teacher who sort of just helped me to get over my psychological difficulties and sing again.
Yes, and that's really a message to everyone, everywhere. You really can recover your voice or develop your voice or have a voice. Your voice in the world matters. Every voice is unique and special. This program is to help you learn about voice, but also to make you think about your own voice. We want you to value what you have to say and how you have to say it. And we want you to think about speaking and singing as being fun and enjoyable and accessible and important, so that you reach out into your community and learn the way we did. Both of us started out in public school. We learned in a public school situation, and both of us became professional singers here in New York because of that outreach which was available to us then. So we want you to think about that. We are very happy, actually, both of us, I think, I'm speaking for both of us, I should ask you first, that there are ways to reach out with music into the world to make the world a better place, right?
There are so many ways. People really love to hear singing, but even more important, people love to sing. And I just encourage everybody to find a place. There's certainly our community chorus, even if you think you sing like a frog, but there are lots of choral opportunities around the city.
Yes, and if you are looking around in your house, you can sing in the living room, you can sing in the shower, you can sing in the kitchen. And you can talk out loud to yourself and recite poetry. That's a really wonderful way to start. We hope that you will continue to watch our show and that you will continue to suggest ideas for us. You can see the website at the end, and we invite you also to let us know if you have certain topics you would like us to address that have to do with the voice. I want to thank Jack once again for being on the program.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank you all for watching. We hope you'll tell your friends. We hope you'll invite them to watch the show here on MNN. And we bid you a happy vocal goodbye until next time.